Observe the Homo sapien. He believes he is a humble, respectful visitor in nature. But little does he know, his very presence on this planet irreparably changes it.
Hi, Dov. First, I wanted to congratulate you on winning the 11-second club. I took a look at your shot, and rightfully so. Your shot looks awesome. It's really, really amazing. Now, my name is Robyne Powell. I'm one of the mentors here at Animation Mentor. I work as an animator at DreamWorks. So I've been with DreamWorks about 13 years now, and I worked at Blue Sky for 5 years before that. So I've been in feature films for quite a long time, but it's an honor for me to be able to take a look at your shot and offer you some feedback. So let's take a look. Now, I actually already taken a look, but we're going to look at it.
Observe the Homo sapien. He believes he is a humble, respectful visitor in nature. But little does he know, his very presence on this planet irreparably changes it.
So I really love the appeal, and you've got a really nice sense of structure and body mechanics with your character, which I worked in 2D for about 7 years at the start of my career, so I have a real soft spot and appreciation for 2D. So I also am aware of how challenging that is to maintain that body structure and volume with our characters, because it's very easy once we're moving them in 3D space to kind of lose that sense or have things float around, but you've got a really nice sense of that. So great job on that. So some things that I was thinking that you can probably start pushing even further. Let's just take a look at this first beginning move right in here. So this is kind of indicative of a few things that I see is when we watch her come down, watch how her hands and her body all come down at the same time. You've got a little bit of breakup here with the hands right there. So the hands make a bigger move as the body is settled, but it'd be great to kind of delay that a little bit more so we get a really nice sense, a clear action. One of the things with animation that can be a little bit tricky is if we have a large object or something that takes up a lot of real estate in our camera view, if that's moving, it's going to definitely draw our eye. So in this case, those hands coming down to grab that baby can kind of get lost in the fact that the large screen space that the body is taking up is moving down at the same time. So what we can do in a case like that is maybe have the body come down a little bit sooner and have the hands grab onto the baby just a couple frames later. But what we can do in that case too is right in here is instead of starting to bring those hands in is have them sweep out a little bit into a bit more of an antic so they come out like this to grab onto that baby. It'll just help the eye follow that body come down and then right into the hands to grab that baby. So that's one of those areas that you can play around with in there. And then on this, I love how you've got this drag. So the baby's delayed as it's coming up, the body's coming up here, and then you come up like that, and then the baby snaps up like that. That's all working really nicely. Now let me just erase those. So some things you can do is just watch out for your spacing as far as there is. If we watch the baby's head, so tracking the baby's head right here, let me switch to a color here that maybe stands out a little bit more. So we've got the baby's head here, 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 and then here. So we've got this tight ease in right here, which is awesome. But then boom, right there, we jump back up there and then we almost stop. So it kind of sticks in there. What I would do is I would find that area where we can just have that nice ease in and overshoot maybe and come down. I mean, I've got 2 kids myself. Whenever I had to lift them up, it was overshoot and then a settle down. So you feel that sense of weight. So what I would do is have that nice tight ease in at the apex and then settle down and a nice tight ease in at that final position where they're holding them. And I think that'll should help really well to read right before you go into this drop, because it buys that time where you get to read that baby up there before you drop him down. And nice sweep into that. I love that arc coming into that. Swoop right in there. It's really, really nice. Now let's take a look. There's a few areas in here too that we can kind of play around with. So on things like this, so when we see her head, watch her head right here. See, I love that you've got this up here. This is great. I love that angle. Is what if you were to delay that so you kept that up? So we're just easing out of that position there. And then here, even have a little bit more of an ease out coming down like that and then swoop into that. So that's going to delay this big action that you've got going on with the baby. Because the baby's coming down and the head's coming down at the same time, if you break those up a little bit, I think you'll be able to read that a little bit more. Now on some areas even in here, what you can do, I love this arc right in here. I would just look for those areas where you can kind of push the spacing a little bit. So you see how we have her hand right here on this frame, and then we have it here, and then we have it here, and then here, and here, here. So when I do the onion skinning there, do you see how we have a big space right there, medium space there, and then slightly smaller? So if you were to ease out of it right here instead, and then have a sweeping action, so have it a little bit faster here, and then ease in tightly, it's going to create that really nice organic sense of boom, like that, and get that nice weight, slap it into that pose, and you'll be able to really follow that. Now let's take a look at, so even on some areas in here, this is awesome. I love this curve that you've got on her action. What you can do in here is you can add a little bit more of an antic. So right when her body comes forward, I love that you've got her body coming forward right in here. So we're compressing that body. When she comes up here, what if you were to say hold back 2 frames and compress the head a little bit as the body's coming up, so you feel this sort of overlap. Just have that head compress a little bit into the shoulders and then come up into that accent. It's really going to emphasize that point when she's making. She's making it right there when she says that, comes back down with her head. I think that would be really nice. Then on ones like this, again, just keep an eye on your spacing, because we can really push this to emphasize these nice sweeping moves right in here. So right in there, you see we've got 3 spacings that are kind of close together, and then 1 big one, and then 2 that are sort of close together in there. What you can do is on a pose like this is something that I always love doing in 2D as well, is starting to rotate the upper head, but then drag the mouth back a bit. So maybe the nose is dragged back a little bit here, and you even drag back the mouth a little bit, then the eyes are over here. So you get this kind of, and because she's so fleshy too, can add that really nice organic sense to it. So it's just adding like a little bit of overlap there in the face, and it's breaking up things just a tiny bit. All right, now on this hand too, this is one of those spacing things too we want to keep an eye out for. So right in there, see, we stop right in there. So what you can do on these big jumps right here, hands were always really tricky because you don't want to bend or break the fingers, you know, unless you can do it in a wipe. And I noticed that you were doing wipes and blurs, which in 2D is always so much fun. You can push that and kind of bend those rules. Literally, we're going to bend those fingers a bit, bend or break them. But in cases like this, so we have this fist right here, is on this one here, if you were to drag those fingers back, like this, and then as she comes up here, you know, you can really drag them back. But remember, point them down in that arc, but pay attention to where your arc is going to be following through on something like this. So you want to follow that path, and then they can snap over, and maybe even here have the fingers drag a little bit. Oh gee, that's a horrible picture that I did of the fingers there. Let's do that again. All right, so if we have just a little bit of drag on the hand here, but definitely drag on those fingers like this, and then boom, and then slap it into this pose. So it'll help read that pose coming up, sweep it over, hold on, doing it this way, right? Sweep it over and then snap into that. So you'll be able to follow an arc of that hand coming up and over, which is more like, you know, something like this. Whoop, and then snap it onto her chest like that. So you can find those little areas where if you can follow that arc and then use those blurs, but use stretching, you know, stretch the fingers and drag them a little bit more to describe that arc as it's coming over. You can get away with that. Just put it only on for 1 frame though. If you have it on for a couple frames or a couple, you know, in-betweens going into that, it's going to look weird because you're going to read that those fingers are stretching. So essentially on those really fast blurs or wipes, you only want them on for 1 frame. You want to be able to feel it and not see it. So that's what's going to be really important. All right, so same thing here. I love this action right in here. We've got these fingers doing this thing. So what I would say is on that, because we're going from our hand here up into there, and then we kind of stop right in there, is maybe have an ease in as the hand's coming up. So we feel this. With that movement, with the hand moving as well, we'll be able to focus our attention a little bit more to it. If the hand stops and it's just the fingers, we have quite a bit of action still going on, like the baby's dropping here a little bit. So right in here, and the body's moving and things like that. So all of that stuff is going to take away from this beautiful action you've got on the fingers. So let's see if we can find that emphasis on just being able to draw the viewer's eye right towards that hand as she's doing this. Now, when we come up like that, I love this. This is fantastic. So on these ones here, I love it. You got this great stretch in the face and you've got that blur on that hand right in there. What I would say on this one is let's see if we can push that even further, like on this face, like really stretch that. I love that you got that open mouth in there. Like just go push that even further, like really get that mouth, like, and you can emphasize that. And even on the brows, you know, coming up like this, stretch that face like that, and then you can snap into that right in there. I would just go really tight into that. That way this stretch is only on there for one frame, but you're spending a lot of time on that really, really tight ease in where we're snapping into it. You can even have that boom, you know, a bit of that overshoot. Now on the hand right here, this is something too that I love that you got this action dropping on this hand right here like this really fast. So we got that blur in there, that wipe, and then into there. What I would do in there is I would find a little bit more of the arc that you're going to follow on that path. So in this case, this is something that always kind of helped. If I knew that I was shooting for this final position right here, what I would do is I would follow this and then up like that. I would just draw like a really light, loose sketch on a piece of paper or even on the drawing itself, and then I would track that. Now on this, what I would do is I would kind of exaggerate this one a little bit more, but because we sort of snap into this and then bounce up right away, kind of reads a little bit like a pop. So maybe we can get something like a blur in here and then cushion into this one. Let me erase this one now. And then ease in tightly into this next pose right in here. So if I hide our onion skinning in there, so we get that blur. Let me erase this line because that's going to be distracting when we see that. I'm just going to put our hand up here. So as we go, so it gives us a chance to read a little bit more of that path, and this, just this little bit of a drag right in here will lead into that cushion right here that you've got, and then ease into this tight position. So if we snap up into it and hold too much, we're missing that opportunity where you can utilize those frames just before it or even after it to just have a nice tight ease in. Now let's see about, let's go on to, I love that, that is awesome. This action that you got going on here with this hand and going waggle, 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 along with the head, I think that's really, really nice. Now, on poses like this too, so this right in here where that head drops, this is something too I would love doing in 2D, is finding those arcs. So if we have our nose right here, and let's see, we're going to end up right here. So when I put on onion skinning, so if we can find that really nice arc going from here down to here, but now this is the cool thing is on this pose right here is to lead a little bit with that head and maybe add a little bit of drag on that nose and then a little bit more drag on the mouth. So you're going to feel that fleshiness of the head driving it, but this area here is going to have that follow through. And you can just snap it quickly and have a nice tight ease into that final position. It just breaks it up a little bit more and gives it that nice fleshy look. Now, on a few things, there's one in here. Let's see if we can find that. And you got this great, see, this is awesome, using that wipe right in there. Actually, let me back up because I think it's over here. Yeah, actually, that's the mouth I think I covered. Okay, so let's go into this one here. So this one here, I love that she's grabbing that paper and you've got that nice ease out before she snaps that paper. But because she kind of hangs into that, slowly pulling that paper, what I thought might be kind of nice is she grabs it and then maybe she either eases in tightly into almost an antic, like she grabs it and she almost pushing into the paper slightly before she yanks it, or if she eases into this right before she pulls it, then she does an antic. So you feel that yank. One, that's going to give it a little bit more punch, but two, by pushing that paper in a little bit on an antic, gives you a bigger distance to travel when she pulls it, which is going to be more powerful and more dynamic. Because right now we kind of slowly come out of it and then boom, into this pose. And one of the things too, I think that might be sort of making it a little bit slower is just the fact that we've got, you know, all of this geometry here. And then we have quite a bit of geometry here. Let me take off onion skinning. And then, oops, there we go. And then quite a bit here. And we're not quite capturing that arc coming through there. So this is what I'm going to suggest right in here is, let's just going to erase through these ones here, is you've got this great antic coming out, is here. Here's where the hand is to drop this a little bit more, make it a little bit more aerodynamic. And see, this is where the point is on that paper, so we've got to follow where that point is, because that's where it's dragging from. So let's figure out where our paper is going to be dragging. And we can have something like this. And here. Going into this one here. Now this one, because we're pulling with such force, let's get the bulk of this paper gone. So we should almost be closer here. So let's figure out, again, following this arc that this paper is coming down through here. And then into, kind of into what you've got here. So I've just sort of taken out a frame in there to make it a little bit faster, just a bit snap here and there. She whips it through. The other thing too is that once that paper kind of pulls through really quickly, we can focus on what she's doing there. It's not competing with this large piece of geometry that's crossing the screen. Now on the fellow here, this fellow is awesome. I love how you've got this really stoic kind of very simple animation, because it's not distracting from the woman, which is exactly what we want to see. So on things like this, little things that you can do to kind of push that just a tiny bit further is on things like this, like where she pulls that paper. See how the hands are right here? What if they were to actually get pulled a little bit, so they're still hanging on, and then they snap back into this, and then they ease into that. So you just feel like yank, you know, so it engages him a little bit more, just a tiny bit more right in there. Now on, I think that was it right there on that face. That's awesome. Yeah, so I think that's what I've got for you pretty much. It's like this really, really nice shot, beautiful shot. There's some things I think that you can push even further to just add that extra weight and snappiness, and then that readability, because you've got these great poses and you definitely want the viewer to be able to really enjoy them. So those are my thoughts for you. But again, congratulations on winning the 11-second club. Well deserved. So I wish you all the best. Bye-bye.